Game week for the University of North Dakota. The Fighting Hawks heading down to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the University of Nebraska. First Big Ten opponent since the mid-1970s. Jack Michaels here to help me break it down. And Nebraska, interesting situation coming back from Dublin, Ireland. A less than stellar performance, you'd have to say, on the road out there against Northwestern, Jack?
I would have to say, Brian, I wonder when North Dakota is going to play in Dublin, Ireland. Maybe you and I can go out there. But yeah, that was high expectations. You know, I rewatched that game a couple of times just to prep for UND's game, and I think that Scott Frost with a new OC that certainly has a long history of making quarterbacks and all that. I thought, and we saw the up tempo, and they went out and who would have thought an onside kick attempt that maybe came back to haunt Nebraska a little bit too. So, yeah, what an opportunity for North Dakota, and a tough loss for Nebraska. I think UND is walking into a beehive's nest in Memorial Stadium. But what a great opportunity for the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, and you'll have a chance to really play in front of a big-time atmosphere. For a lot of these guys, it'll be the biggest atmosphere they've played in front of. Even for the coaches, this is going to be maybe the biggest atmosphere they've played in front of. Bubba Schweiger talked about that today in his press conference, about how we have to just control what we can control, be prepared, and then go out there and play a clean game.
A couple of years back when North Dakota was out in Seattle, as I was watching the sailgating going on with the Huskies game, and you know, UND hung with Washington and hung with them for a while, and I think maybe even opened eyes of some Pac-12 teams out there, and you know, and fell short. Obviously, this might be even a little different bird, because I think Nebraska, and I don't know, I mean, there could be 90,000 people, and depending on their attitude towards, you know, Scott Frost, but they have lost so many tight ones that I can only imagine the buildup and the frustration and the anger, and UND is going to get everything humanly possible. And if you're North Dakota, trying to think, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, you know what, you're kind of playing with house money. You're walking in there, and not a soul expects you to overcome Nebraska in Lincoln, for goodness sakes. And well, if you can go out there and maybe take a jab or two, hang with it, make that a football game, all of a sudden that 90,000 gets a little nervous. So, yeah, it is a tremendous opportunity. And Bubba's right. You know, they can't control what Nebraska's going to do. They can only figure out what they're going to do.
What do you like about North Dakota coming into this season opener? They do have some experience, certainly on the defensive line, the linebacking core, cornerback situation, offensive line situation, still trying to figure that out. But I think it's a confident club going down there with some guys that have played in a lot of big games.
I always look for athletes with chips on their shoulders, you know, and right away not being ranked, you know, maybe catching a vote or two in a national poll. We know how good those polls are. Coaches don't really read into that. But I think players might catch some of that. So that I love, because it puts a little chip on the shoulder. So that's always good when an athlete has that. They do have guys that are coming back. You know, Tommy Schuster leading that offense, comfortable with the offense. Quincy Vaughn there, used in special situations. They've got enough speed, I think, in the backfield and on the perimeter to get the ball out and wreak some havoc offensively. You mentioned, Brian, defensively, and the Jalens, I call them, when you got Jalen Morrison and Jalen Johnson out there. Elijah Beach is a big boy. The linebacker, Sharnosky, I think, is just continues to play well every single year, the transfer. And then the cornerbacks, you know, the secondary, you're thinking, okay, they've lost some talent back there, but what do they have? And I can tell you that C.J. Siegel is a playmaker. I was listening to some old UND broadcasts from a few years ago, and it was a Siegel interception in the end zone to seal a win, and this guy is ready to shine. So I think there's enough there. Depth is always what you're trying to build, as you know. And for North Dakota, you know, have you ever heard this? If they stay healthy. Oh, wait, every coach says if we stay healthy. Yeah. But I like the pieces that are in place. I think even on the special teams, you know, you got a guy punting the ball. And I know it's not sexy sometimes to talk about punting, but you know what? That deals with field position. So I think that they're good there. I'm cautiously optimistic. Now their schedule is going to be like, I often say, driving a toaster through a car wash. So that schedule is going to get vaunted and heavy right out of the gate. But if they can stay upright, this is a team that I think is going to open some eyes.
All right, Jack, we appreciate you stopping by. Looking forward to the season opener. Have a great call on Saturday.
Hey, good to see you, buddy.
You too, man.